Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining our webinar today on the 2025 Federal Transportation Alternative Set Aside. And I'm going to turn it over to Julie Seaman, who's from New Jersey Department of Transportation, to welcome everybody and get us kicked off. Go ahead, Julie.
So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Julie Seaman. I work for the New Jersey Department of Transportation in the Division of Local Aid. Thank you for joining us today. We very much appreciate you taking the time to participate in this webinar. Today, I'm joined by my Department of Transportation colleagues. That's Nabil Ayub. He works in our District 2 office, and I know that we have representatives from DVRPC. I see Dan Snyder on our webinar this afternoon. He's part of one of the three Metropolitan Planning Organizations that work within the state of New Jersey. So this webinar is one of two transportation alternatives set aside grant application information webinars we will be holding this year. So some of the key dates that we have listed are put on the screen today for you to be aware of. Today is the first, November 14th, the first webinar. The second will be December 3rd, 2024. Each webinar is an opportunity to hear about the grant application process. Participants in today's webinar will be able to, ask questions and get clarifications about the grant application process. The webinar will be posted for viewing after today's session. That'll be on the Safe Routes NJ .org website. The typical grant application deadlines are as follows. Grant solicitation letters are mailed to every municipality and posted on DOT social media. This timeline consists of key dates for the bottom up, starting from the bottom up. So paying attention, that's December 10th, 2024. That's a very important date. That's a date we will be opening up our TA solicitation. That's when the SAGE application will also open up. Okay. The timeline, again, the key dates. A good strategy is to sign up for mandatory one-on-one meetings within the first month for the time slots when they open. We expect to open up the mandatory one-on-ones in early January, shooting for approximately the 8th of January, give or take. Okay. And then you'll have about, 5 months to prepare and submit your grant applications henceforth. This presentation will review the key dates in depth, and also please stay tuned to hear more. We'll also go over some of the other, aspects of applying. Our speakers today are from the DOT Safe Routes to School Resource Center at Rutgers University. At this point, I'll turn over the presentation to the colleagues, Leanne Von Hagen from, Safe Routes Resource Center, and also John Ducan, who are going to give today's presentation. We'll be back for Q&A. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Julie. Hello, everybody. As Julie said, my name is Leanne Von Hagen, and I manage the New Jersey Safe Routes and the New Jersey Bicycle and Pedestrian Resource Centers that are funded by New Jersey Department of Transportation and housed at the Voorhees Transportation Center at Rutgers University. For today's session, we're going to briefly review federal aid programs and the specifics of the Transportation Set-Aside grant that will come out for the 2025 grant round, including a walk through the application and the grant application process. Plus, we'll give you some real helpful tips and strategies on where to find more resources to get your grants in. A few logistics first. This webinar is being recorded. When we're done with this recording, we will be putting it up on our Safe Routes to School Resource Center website, which is saferoutesnj.org. We will also share it with the New Jersey Local Aid Resource Center, and they will also post. So we'll be posting the presentation recording and the slides. And another note of logistics. At the bottom of your screen, you should see the chat button available. In order to move today's meeting along, we'd like to make sure everybody uses the chat function as much as possible. And I know sometimes chat can feel awkward, or you're not exactly sure the question, how you want to phrase it. Please feel free. We are here to help. That we aren't here to police anybody's grammar or anything like that. We really want you to use the chat button freely, ask your questions as we're presenting. Even if you think we might get to it later, but you have a question early on, feel free to put in the chat. That's what we're here. We're here to answer questions for you today. My colleagues John Dugan and Sean Meehan will be monitoring chat along with our other invited guests. So, you might find that you get an answer before we even get to our stop for Q&A, and we're going to have 2 places where we stop for Q&A. So let's dive in. When reviewing grant funding opportunities at New Jersey DOT, they're divided into state-funded programs and federally funded programs. Plus, low-cost loans are available through the New Jersey Transportation Infrastructure Bank. More information about both the state and federal grants can be found on New Jersey DOT's Local Aid Resource Center website at NJDOT and I'm going to talk a little bit more about the state and federal funding a little bit later. We're going to first talk about transportation set aside, and then we'll get into some of the other grants that are listed here. Something to know is Transportation Alternative Set Aside is a surface transportation block grant program and provides funding for projects and activities, including on and off-road pedestrian and bicycle facilities, infrastructure projects for improving non-driver access to public transportation and enhanced mobility, community improvements such as historic preservation and vegetation management, environmental mitigation related to stormwater, water and habitat connectivity, trails that serve a transportation purpose, and safe routes to school projects as well, although there's also a separate safe routes to school grant. In New Jersey, transportation alternatives is separated into 2 different types of grant applications, one for safe routes to school and one for transportation alternatives. The Transportation Alternative Program was established under Congress in 2012 under the MAP 21 program. The FAST Act in 2015 replaced the TAP program with a set aside of funds under the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program, which is why we call it the set aside program now. And it's part of the core federal highway program. This has been maintained under the new Infrastructure and Investment and Jobs Act, also known as the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, which set up new funding for TA set-aside programs for the next 5 years, including $1.449 billion nationally for FY 2025. Solicitation of applications, project selection, and funding are administered jointly by New Jersey DOT and New Jersey's 3 Metropolitan Planning Organizations, or MPOs. 59% of transportation alternative set-aside funds are sub-allocated through New Jersey DOT to these 3 MPOs. Here's a breakdown of the number of applications, requested amounts, and number of grants awarded for the past 4 TA set-aside solicitation rounds. As you can see, it's a competitive grant where many more applications are received than can be awarded. It's a great idea to get started now to give yourself time to pull together a top-notch application. Funding for this program has more than doubled under the new bipartisan infrastructure law, adding $15.3 million for New Jersey and raising the total funding to $23.5 million for 2025. And just so you know, New Jersey DOT applications usually follow a 2-year cycle. So typically you'll see it available in 2025, and then Safe Routes is anticipated for 2026, and then TA set aside again for 2027. But we'll see. So let's move on to what we know, which is what's coming up. So these next few slides, I'm going to go over the TA set aside grants. Again, please use the chat function for any questions, and we'll get to those shortly. So first and foremost, what is the purpose of transportation alternative set aside grants, also called TA set aside? Basically, it awards community-based transportation projects for either land or water that expands travel choice, strengthens public health and the local economy, improves safety and quality of life, and protects the environment. So who is eligible to apply? So the majority of applicants are from local municipal governments. However, there are many entities that are eligible to receive TA set-aside funds as amended in the bipartisan infrastructure law. So these include regional transportation authorities, transit agencies responsible for public transportation as determined by the Federal Transit Administration, natural resource or public land agencies, including any federal, tribal, state, or local agency responsible for natural resources or public land administration, such as state or local parks or forest agencies, tribal governments, metropolitan planning organizations that serve an urbanized area with a population of under 200,000, or um, and nonprofit entities. However, please keep in mind, nonprofit organizations are not eligible as a direct grant subrecipient for TA set-aside funds. They are eligible to partner with any eligible entity on an eligible project. If so, the New Jersey DOT has final authority to make a determination on the eligibility of an applicant. And something to keep in mind, many municipalities co-sponsor or partner with a county or regional nonprofit to complete applications and work together on project authorization and implementation. So partnerships can really help improve municipalities' capacity to manage federal grants. So what's an eligible project? The facilities must be surface transportation oriented for land or water. In other words, not solely for recreational purposes. For example, off-road trails are eligible for funding, but they should first and foremost serve a transportation facility that is multi-use and connects destinations. Transportation by water encompasses such features as canals, docks, and piers connecting to ferry operations. So what distinguishes a TA set-aside activities from other worthwhile quality of life environmental activities and their potential to create transportation experience beyond a normal expectations? At the same time, they may protect the environment and provide a more aesthetic, pleasant, and improved interface between the transportation system for the communities and the people adjacent to transportation facilities. Something else to keep in mind. Proposals must be for a complete, identifiable, and usable facility or activity. Funds are not available for a partial project that cannot function as a complete and useful activity on its own. So there are 7 criteria with TA set aside, and I'm going to go through each one of those 7 criteria. So first is design and construction of on-road and off-road trail facilities for pedestrians, bicyclists, and other non-motorized forms of transportation. Second, conversion and use of abandoned railroad corridors for trails for pedestrians, bicyclists, and other non-motorized transportation users. Third, construction of scenic turnouts, overlooks, and viewing areas. Fourth, historic preservation and rehabilitation of historic transportation facilities, both land and water, such as building structures and canals. Fifth, community improvement activities, specifically streetscaping and corridor landscaping. Sixth, environmental mitigation to address stormwater management control and water pollution prevention or abatement related to highway construction or due to highway runoff. And 7, reduce vehicle-caused wildlife mortality or to restore and maintain connectivity among terrestrial or aquatic habitats. All right, maybe I went those a little quickly. I'm going to go through them individually with a few more examples, just so you can be sure you know what's eligible. One second. Okay, sometimes my computer lags. Okay, so let's go back. We first talked about design and construction of on-road and off-road trail facilities for pedestrians, bicyclists, and other non-motorized forms of transportation. So here's some types of eligible activities. New or reconstructed sidewalks, walkways, and curb ramps. Second, bike lane striping. Third, wide paved shoulders. Fourth, bike parking and bus racks. Fifth, new or reconstructed off-road trails. And 6, bicycle and pedestrian bridges and underpasses, all types of projects under design and construction of on-road and off-road facilities. Okay, next. Uh, Conversion and use of abandoned railroad corridors for trails for pedestrians, bicyclists, and other non-motorized transportation users. So some of these activities include designing and constructing multi-use trails along a railroad right-of-way. Another, major reconstructions of multi-use trails along railroad right-of-way. You can also, eligible is developing rail with trail projects. Oops, you went on one too far. We're still on number 2, John. There we go. Um, Bike parking and bus racks and purchasing unused railroad property for reuse. Okay, so a third eligible category, construction of scenic turnouts, overlooks, and viewing areas. So eligible projects in this category include improvement to protect and enhance existing state or federally designed scenic or historic highways. So one place to go for more information is about designated scenic byways is to visit NJDOT's Historic Roadways website. Okay, so we just did do turnouts. Okay, so next we're going to talk about historic preservation. So historic preservation and rehabilitation of historic transportation facilities, both land and water, such as building structures and canals. Rehabilitation of historic transportation facilities include restoration and reuse of historic buildings with strong link to transportation history, access improvements to historic sites and buildings, restoration of railroad depots, bus stations, and lighthouses, rehabilitation of rail trestles, tunnels, bridges, and canals, and interpretive displays at historic sites. All right, and the next one is community improvement activities, which typically include streetscaping and corridor landscaping. So this can include lighting, historic sidewalk paving, benches, planting containers, decorative walls, and walkways. Applications under this category should also include elements of safety and also address ADA upgrades for pedestrian and bicycle users. Okay. Now we go to environmental mitigation to address stormwater management control, water pollution prevention or abatement related to highway construction or due to highway runoff for vegetation management and invasive species prevention. So environmental mitigation projects, it can include detention and sediment basins, stream channel stabilization, vegetation management, invasive species prevention, and storm drain stenciling and river cleanups. Okay, 7. So finally, our 7th eligible category, reduce vehicle-caused wildlife mortality or to restore and maintain connectivity among terrestrial or aquatic habitats. So these eligible activities include wetlands acquisition and restoration, stream channel stabilization, wildlife underpasses or overpasses, which may include bridge extensions to provide or improve wildlife passage and wildlife habitat connectivity, and monitoring and data collection on habitat fragmentation and vehicle-caused wildlife mortality. All right, so those are the 7 categories. If you haven't already and you have some questions, please feel to go ahead and put them in chat and we'll get to them. We'll be getting to Q&A shortly. So let's talk about eligible costs. Project costs eligible for funding include design, right-of-way acquisition and construction. Applicants are encouraged to utilize local funds to pay for pre-construction activities such as preliminary design, final design, right-of-way, and environmental documentation. However, there is also a design assistance program that is available, which I'll get to in a few short slides. So hang on to that. It's important to note that costs for construction inspection services should be identified separately if those types of funds are also desired for your proposed activity. There's a few project costs that are not eligible for funding. This is not an exhaustive list, but the ones that costs that are not eligible include administrative costs, miscellaneous contingencies, utility facility relocation costs, and uniform traffic directors unless they're required by design. And some of you may be familiar with previous versions of transportation alternative grant programs from many years ago. Also, sometimes once upon a time, they were called transportation enhancement grants. There used to be a few activities that were eligible under those grants that are no longer, or they are now currently ineligible activities. So things like bicycle and pedestrian education programs, acquisition of scenic or historic elements and sites, providing scenic or historic highway programs, and funding welcome centers and transportation museums are no longer eligible under transportation alternative set-aside grants. Another thing to keep in mind, recreational trails that are also not included in TA set-aside. Recreational trail applications are submitted through the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. More information is on DEP's website. They haven't opened up the application recently, but applications, they are revamping, and applications will be coming soon. Okay, I love to talk about project selection criteria. This is sort of one of the tips and strategies you should look to. Each application is reviewed on site by New Jersey DOT staff and the TA set-aside selection committee. So applications will be evaluated using an established program using a 25-point rating system. Each project will be assessed based solely on the content of your application and your attachments. There are several ways the rating system gives extra points to applicants. You can receive an extra point if the project is located in one or more of the following designated areas. Do you have a complete streets, adopted complete streets policy? Are you in a transit village or listed by the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs as a targeted urban municipality or an opportunity zone? Another way to increase the chances on your application is if your project is construction ready. Those also receive higher consideration. And location of your project is important. All grant applications will be reviewed for deliberate and actionable considerations of equity in underserved communities. So consideration will be given to applicants that provide additional benefits to a community or communities identified in the following categories: Title VI of the Civil Rights Act, environmental justice communities, limited English proficiency populations, and individuals with disabilities. Census data will be used to determine if a project meets this equity criteria. The following data sets will be used: percent low income, percent minority, less than high school education, linguistic isolation, individuals under age 5 and individuals under age 18, individuals over age 64, and individuals with disabilities. So as an applicant, you will not be required to show or map your census data. Just know that New Jersey DOT will be looking at these factors and equity considerations as part of the grant applications that you submit. Okay. Did you notice I went through the part about designated transit villages, targeted urban municipalities, and opportunity zones pretty quickly? And maybe you thought, wait, what? How do I find out more about those? Well, we have the site for you. Luckily, in New Jersey, if you go to the Department of Community Affairs, they have a fantastic mapping tool that helps map these designations, points of interest like transit, libraries, and schools, and more. Plus, you can print your maps to include in your application. So simply search for New Jersey DCA Community Asset Map and start playing around with the data. So what you see right now is the checked for Housing and Mortgage Finance Agency targeted urban municipal areas. So there they are. Okay. TA set-aside funds are to be used only for projects with a direct transportation relationship that improves quality of life while reaching the greatest number of people. These are the overarching selection criteria for transportation alternative grants. Applications should identify and show support for at least one of the following selection criteria. Questions you could answer in your application include: can you explain how the project affects users' choice in the mode of transportation? Can you predict usage? Does this project increase active transportation opportunities? Does it connect to a bridge does it connect to or bridge the gap with other bicycle or pedestrian facilities? Will safety be improved? And does the project provide regional or connections or community health benefits? And can you explain how it benefits quality of life, public health, and the environment? Other questions you can ask: is this part of a larger state, regional, or municipal transportation land use or economic development plan? If so, make sure you identify and upload documentation and include how your project you're applying for connects to a bigger picture. Does the project connect community or regional activity centers and provide economic and tourism benefits? How does the project enhance, preserve, or protect historical resources? And another thing is it urgent because the resource could be lost if you don't get the money? In short, this is a very competitive grant. You will need to provide compelling reasons based on the selection criteria why your project should be funded. Okay, at this point, I'm going to turn the presentation over to my colleague, John Dugan, who will walk you through the grant application.
Thank you, Leanne. Hi, everyone. I'm John Dugan with NJ Safe Routes Resource Center here at Rutgers University. Next, basically what I'm going to do is walk you through the online application. We will take a break for questions and answers after my walkthrough of the application. So as Leanne said a couple times, feel free to put anything into chat. As I'm talking, please continue to use that chat and we'll get to them in a few slides. To apply for the TA Set-Aside grant, applicants will need to utilize SAGE, or the System for Administering Grants Electronically. Each municipality has access to SAGE. Likely the administrator of the municipality has a username and password, so check with that person first. Municipalities and counties already have an authorized official registered with access to SAGE from the NJ Department of Community Affairs, also known as DCA. If you are a school or school district and don't have access to SAGE, contact NJDOT or local aid to request access. If you do not have access to SAGE, and you are not representing a municipality, you can apply as a new user online through the NJDOT website. Now I'm going to walk you through the application screens on SAGE. Once you log into SAGE, you will see the 6 program requirements for the Transportation Alternative Set-Aside Grant. These 6 requirements are resolution or letter of support, maintenance commitment, responsible charge, project must relate to surface transportation, project must meet one of the 7 eligible activities, and mandatory one-on-one grant application meetings. I'm going to talk about each of these 6 requirements in detail coming up, and if any of these 6 requirements are not met, unfortunately, the project and the application will be considered ineligible. The first program requirement for TA Set-Aside is a resolution or letter of support. The resolution must be signed and passed within 1 year before the solicitation date. The resolution must refer to the project you are applying for and include either a resolution or letter of support from the owner of the public right-of-way that impacts the project. So if the project is on a county road, you'll need to obtain a letter of support from the county. If the project is on a state road, you can contact the Bureau of Safety, Bicycle, and Pedestrian Programs at NJDOT at bikeped@dot.nj.gov. Sample resolutions and letters of support can be found on saferoutesnj.org/funding, and I will also show an example in the next couple of slides. In the next requirement, the next requirement needed to apply for a TA Set-Aside grant is a maintenance commitment which certifies continual ownership and maintenance of the project. If the applicant does not have jurisdiction over the right-of-way, then a signed letter or resolution must be provided by that party. So if one of the roads is within your project, it's a county road, then you will need to submit a letter or resolution certifying continual ownership and maintenance of the project. As is the case with letters of support and resolutions, they must be dated and signed within 1 year of the solicitation date. If it's a letter, it must be addressed to the applicant, not to NJDOT. You can also combine both the support and maintenance commitment into one resolution or letter, which is strongly encouraged to save time. Here's a sample of a letter which includes both support of the project and maintenance commitment to the project. This sample is embedded within the SAGE application for ease of use and is also available on our website, saferoutesnj.org/funding. Jumped ahead a little there. The third requirement for applications to the TA Set-Aside program is responsible charge. This person must be a full-time employee who will be in charge of the project. The responsible charge cannot be a consultant, even if they provide engineering services or function as a local agency engineer of record. The responsible charge is accountable for the project from beginning to end and is expected to maintain familiarity with day-to-day project operations, including project safety issues, direct project staff, or consultants to carry out project administration and make decisions about change conditions or scope that require change orders or supplemental agreements. The full list of duties and functions to the person of responsible charge can be found in the 2025 TA Set-Aside Handbook. The fourth program requirement is that the project must be related to surface transportation, as Leanne said, which includes both on land and by water, so that can include docks, canals, piers, and ferries. The fifth requirement is that the project must be one of the 7 eligible activities that Leanne mentioned earlier in the presentation. You will also only be able to select one of the 7 activities. If any of the following 5 requirements are not included, projects will be considered ineligible. If you choose option 1, design and construction of on-road and off-road trails facilities for pedestrians, bicyclists, and other non-motorized transportation users, you will be asked, what group is the facility meant to service, pedestrians and bicycles or bicyclists? And what is the length of the proposed facility, and indicate the number of miles and be clear about the project limits. As I indicated earlier, you must pick one of the 7 activities. However, if your project meets other activities, choose the one that most accurately fits your project and then include in your narrative portion of the application, which I will show you in a few slides. So for example, if your project is Green Streets, which addresses both 5 and 6, choose the one that best fits the goal of the project. If controlling flooding is the goal, then choose 6, but include in the narrative that it will also improve streetscaping with the installation of trees and plantings. If the project is an off-road trail for bicycles and pedestrians, check that box, but if it will also address stormwater management and reduce vehicle-caused wildlife mortality, include that in the narrative as well to show breadth of the project. The last requirement is one-on-one grant application meeting. To apply for TA set-aside funds, applicants must attend a one-on-one pre-app meeting with NJDOT Local Aid. You'll indicate in the application whether or not you have scheduled and attended a one-on-one pre-application meeting and provide the date of the meeting. More details will be given about these mandatory pre-application meetings and how to schedule them, so stay tuned. The next section of the application is to indicate the type of improvement. Again, picking the infrastructure and engineering project that best describes and represents your project. Bikeways include new bikeways on or off-road. Pedestrian safety includes new sidewalks, ADA curb ramps, and traffic calming or quality of life, which includes beautification, environmental mitigation, economic development, or historic preservation. You'll need to state the title of the project, and you have up to 100 characters to do this, and choose the county and municipality of the project. The next section of the SAGE application includes providing contact information for the applicant: name, address, zip code, phone, email, and federal tax ID. Ideally, this contact should be a responsible charge, but sometimes the mayor is the contact or the person from the applicant organization who is championing the project. The next section is a project proposal where you'll provide detailed descriptions of the project. You have up to 4,500 characters, including spaces. Here, note if your project meets more than one of the 7 eligible categories. It's the narrative that I mentioned before. You'll also attach maps, plans, and images. Use the map maker tool to create a project map. More details will be covered in a little bit as well. Including pictures of the location and concerns helps the selection committee understand the project. Indicate the project location, limits, such as mileposts or street names, and any effects on user transportation modes. If it impacts community or regional centers, for example, businesses or schools, improves safety, or promotes non-automotive modes with new or improved facilities, explain in up to 1,000 characters. Continuing on to the project proposal section of the SAGE, you have 1,000 characters to explain how the project supports community or regional benefits and visibility or impact on surrounding locations. Does the project demonstrate the benefit to quality of life, community, and environment? Does the project demonstrate the extent to which a project links other transportation modes and increases access to community centers, schools, employment sites, recreation, and shopping? and its visibility or impact on surrounding locations. 1,000 characters to explain if the project addresses safety and public health benefits. Does this project provide safety and public health benefits? Does this project address a safety need? Does this project increase active transportation opportunities? And does this project provide other public health benefits? You have 1,000 characters to describe if the project is part of a state, regional, or municipal land use, transportation, bike ped, or economic development plan. If so, have the relevant pages to the plan been attached? 1,000 characters to explain if the project is located in a community that has a complete streets policy, is designated as a transit village, targeted urban municipality, or opportunity zone. You have 1,000 characters to explain if the project provides value as an environmental mitigation or enhancement. For example, does it enhance an environmentally sensitive parcel? Does it involve vegetation management, address wildlife management issues, provide stormwater mitigation, or preserve a historic property listed on the National or NJ Registry of Historic Places? Explain if the project will be taking any right-of-way or easements from environmentally sensitive parcels. You have 1,000 characters to do this. Examples would be wetlands, parks, historic properties, contaminated sites, etc. Explain if the project requires permits and approvals as for National Environmental Policy Act compliance, NJDEP, or other regulatory agencies, including pylons, meadowlands, and highlands. No matching funds are required, but if there are other funds contributing to the project that shows commitment and potential to succeed. The next section of the SAGE application is the project schedule. Please attach a schedule that shows important milestones, including easement acquisitions, right-of-way permits, utility locations, bids, start construction, and timelines. Remember to consider NEPA document approvals if this is included in your project, and consider the time and effort required to obtain environmental permitting and allow for these in your project timeline. Indicate the number of months from written authorization to project completion and evaluation. Include plans, specifications, and estimate submission milestones. Indicate who will maintain the facility. Does a project require utility relocation? Yes or no? If yes, please explain in 500 characters. Are permits required? Yes or no? If yes, please explain in 500 characters. Is the purchase of right-of-way required for construction? Yes or no? If yes, you have up to 500 characters to explain. Does the project intersect the state highway? Yes or no? If yes, indicate which highway, and also is the highway signalized? Yes or no? Intersection signalized, I'm sorry. Is there a railroad crossing or highway ramp within the project limits? Yes or no? If yes, you have up to 500 characters to explain. Will the construction impact traffic at a railroad crossing outside of the project limits? Yes or no? The next section of the application is the cost estimate. Identify the phase of work for the project and check all that apply: design, right-of-way, and/or construction. If construction, attach a detailed cost estimate, including materials cost, tasks needed to complete the project, and include full-time construction inspection costs. Full-time construction inspection is required. Construction inspection is an eligible cost. If design, provide design engineering costs. If right-of-way, provide the cost to obtain that. Indicate the total project cost and indicate the total amount requested. Applicants are encouraged to use their own funds to pay for soft costs, or perhaps there are other sources of funding for the project. It is recommended that projects have a requested funding amount between $350,000 and $1.5 million. Exceptions may be made at the discretion of the selection committee. Consulting engineers providing design services are not eligible to provide construction inspection services for the same project. Utility facility relocation costs are not eligible for reimbursement. All projects must meet the requirement of the Americans with Disabilities Act. For projects that involve funding for the design, the project sponsor must comply with the federal requirements for the procurement of professional services if consultants are being used. Not included are administrative costs, contingencies, utility relocation, uniform traffic directors unless required by design. An effort should be made to develop estimates as accurately and comprehensively as is practical. To assist with the preparation of the cost estimate, an estimating cost for typical improvements has been developed and may be found on NJDOT Local Aid Resource Center website under Transportation Alternatives. The partnership and public outreach section will allow you to attach up to 5 letters of support from community organizations, residents, groups, committees, and any other interested parties. Be sure to ask partners to address their letters of support of your project to the applicant, not the NJDOT. Letters must also be signed and dated within 1 year of the solicitation date. So at this point, this is one of the Q&A spots. We would like to stop and address chat questions if we have any, or other comments that we would like to make sure are heard. And thanks in advance for any questions.
We don't have any questions at this point. Feel free to put some in.
Yes, good afternoon. I've been having spotty concerns with my camera. This is Julie. So we don't have any questions, as Leanne had mentioned, but I just wanted to mention a few things that I think are good pointers. Just remember that we will be opening December 10th. So now is the time to actually start thinking about your application. This is normally we run these webinars after we actually have started soliciting for, applications, but this is a little different earlier on. So I hope that you take the extra time and take the time and use it to your advantage and get started now. We have older sets of handbooks, and screenshots from a previous solicitation on our website, but that's not going to be very different. I urge you to start using that as a good guide to actually start preparing an application. We just ran through what you're required, an estimate, project proposal, things like that. So start thinking about that upfront. That would be one thing I would recommend. And again, resources that are available. We have representatives from DVRPC today, Dan Snyder and John Kasha, on our call, available in the webinar, but also think in mind, if you're in North Jersey or in the New Jersey NJTPA area, they have a website as well. They will have information about this as we update the information. So they'll have a link, there for the one-on-ones, the solicitation, things like that. So reach out to your respective MPO, for additional guidance as well. And that's all, through including SJTPO as well. And again, one-on-ones will be soliciting for them, actually, in January, or opening them up in January. So look for that. That'll be on our resource website. And again, the MPOs will have the linking information to sign up. So what submission date is May 22nd. I see in the what's the date? The deadline is May 22nd, 2025. We expect to open the solicitation on December 10th, 2024. So you'll have approximately 5 months to apply. Then remember, we went into this, but it's a requirement as well. If you have a project that frequently they go down county roads and whatnot, make sure that you start thinking about applying for, or getting either a letter of support, or a letter of approval, or a resolution of approval from the respective county, so that you can actually demonstrate that you have, commitment to work on their property, and they have a maintenance commitment available. That's important to start thinking ahead as well, because these things take time. You have to have a council meeting, so that's important. All right, so we're gonna move on, I think, to the
Yeah.
second part of the webinar,
Great.
to talk about the rest of these things you should be aware of in general. Okay, with that, I'll turn it over to Leanne and John. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. And Julie, just to reinforce, this is that kind of application. It's almost never too early to start. So we're getting a head start this grant round, and that's good. So let me go on this next part, a little bit shorter. Really want to just go through so you're aware of like the entire grant process, because it's not it. Although you're here probably to hear mostly about the application, want to make sure you're aware of the whole type of project. What does this really take to do a TA set aside application? So one of the ways to look at the bigger picture is what we see as the 5 stages to the federal grant process. So stage 1 is the pre-award stage, where NJDOT solicits grant applications. So we're basically there, stage 1. Stage 2 is the award notification stage, where those who are awarded contracts set up a kickoff meeting with New Jersey DOT. Stage 3 is the authorization stage, where after New Jersey DOT and FHWA review all of the final documents, you will receive written authorization to proceed and be able to spend funds. This is important to remember about that you're not actually spending funds before you hit stage 3. Then stage 4, the implementation stage, where you perform grant requirements, submit reports, and request and receive payments. And finally, stage 5, the closeout stage, which finalizes the contract after all aspects of the project are complete. So please be aware, completion of all 5 stages will take several years. However, projects must receive authorization or completion of stage 3 within 2 years of notification of being selected to receive the award. This includes demonstrating that the necessary permits, approvals, and environmental clearances will be obtained within that 2-year timeline. Some things to keep in mind as you consider applying for these funds. First, completing the authorization process, or stage 3, is necessary before funds distribution. Any money spent before receiving the official written go-ahead from the Federal Highway Administration will not be reimbursed. Second, funds are provided on a reimbursement basis. This means you will need to spend money upfront and present invoices for the money to be spent before you are reimbursed. So be sure to budget accordingly. Finally, all applicable federal laws and regulations must be followed, and make sure you have the capacity to manage federal grants. But one thing, we are extremely lucky in New Jersey, and believe me, I've talked to other states. They love this for New Jersey. In New Jersey, by federal law, these grants require a 20% match. However, New Jersey Department of Transportation covers that 20% match with state funds. So no additional match will be required of the applicant. Not so lucky in other states with that. One other opportunity with TA set aside is the Design Assistance Program. I made reference to that earlier. This will be available to all TA set aside grant recipients. The Design Assistant Program makes available consultant engineering services to assist with the development of plans, specifications, and estimates for projects. New Jersey DOT will establish a pool of engineering design consultants through a quality-based selection process. The purpose of this pre-qualification consultant pool is to aid in the project delivery process by reducing the time required to procure professional services and ensure the consultant selection process is compliant with all federal regulations. Use of the consultant pool is not mandatory, but encouraged in order to shorten design time, reduce cost, and improve quality of the delivery. There are several steps to selecting a consultant and negotiating services as part of the design assistance process. What you just need to know is that if you choose to use the design assistance services, New Jersey DOT will hold a specific meeting to discuss the pool of consultants and the full process with you if you're selected to move forward. All right, we've talked about this a few times, so I'm just going to hammer it home, I think. One-on-one pre-application meeting is a requirement for each applicant. You must attend and at least one mandatory meeting. Your consultants that you might be bringing with you are welcome, but you as the applicant, as the municipality, that part is mandatory. You have to be there. You can't just send your consultants. At this meeting, the prospective applicant can discuss their project concept and receive guidance on whether the proposed project fits the grant program well. The team will be able to help identify any potential risks and discuss essential program elements. Participation does not guarantee a grant, but helps the department ensure that the projects submitted this funding are of good quality. So my recommendation is, as soon as you see the sign up go online in January, go ahead and sign up as soon as you can. These slots do fill quickly. You want to be ready to sign up, get your meeting in, present your case about what type of project you're bringing forth, get all your questions answered, and then head on to filling in the application. There's a few prerequisites to these one-on-one meetings that local aid requests of applicants. It would be great to go ahead and create a project map. It doesn't have to be fancy. It just has to show the project limits. And also New Jersey DOT has a map maker tool. So you can use this map maker tool to start your map today and put in your project limits. Create a brief description of your project so that the department can better ascertain whether it meets the 7 eligible categories. To the extent you can, and this doesn't have to be perfect, but create a cost estimate of your project. Give some ideas. What do you think is going to be needed to complete your project? There's also, as I mentioned, there's some general cost estimates on the Local Aid Resource Center website, also on our Safe Routes Resource Center website to help assist you with the design treatment costs. There's also a pre-application questionnaire at the DOT Local Aid Resource Center. When the one-on-one meetings, application meetings open, you'll see a brief questionnaire that'll help you through this. Okay, some tips and strategies. And if you have any more questions, feel free to add them to chat. We will get to them shortly. When the grant is announced, there will be a TA set-aside handbook, and I apologize, this should say 2025 TA set-aside handbook. I apologize, we've missed that. So when you see the 2025 TA set-aside handbook on the website, when the grant opens on December 10th, go ahead and download it, print it, dog-ear it, highlight it. Everything that we've gone through today is also in this handbook. This handbook is going to be your best friend while putting this grant application together. So make sure you download the 2025 version in case there are some nuances, and any other documents you will find that you might be helpful for your application are also listed in this document. One thing, tips and strategies, make sure you include all application requirements. So, for example, for resolutions, don't upload a blank resolution that is not signed and dated. Unsigned letters or resolutions will not be accepted. This is a fairly common mistake and it's kind of a bummer. So please, when you've done the work to get that resolution, make sure when you upload it, it's the one that has all the signatures, the official resolution. Work early to get those resolutions from all affected parties. Julie mentioned it before. If you're crossing a county facility or road, make sure you've brought the county into your discussion. Same with if it's a state. Bear in mind if sidewalk, curbing route work, or ADA ramp upgrades are being considered along a county-owned right-of-way, a resolution from the county is recommended, and as physical construction work may encroach upon the county right-of-way. And we all know, I think on this call, resolutions, they take time. So like that's one of your first checks on the checklist. Make sure to get that done early. Oh, and also we provided a sample in the Sage application. As soon as you open the Sage application, you'll see there's a sample resolution. You can just cut paste. It's also on our saferoutesnj.org website. So we're trying to make this as easy as possible for you. And with the support letters, make sure they're addressed to the applicant, not to DOT, another fairly common mistake. This is your project and people who support it should be supporting you. Another thing, we've talked a little bit about the person of responsible charge. This is another federal requirement. Identify who this person is early. This ideally is the person who goes to your one-on-one meetings. There are trainings available if you're going to be person of responsible charge. So, take the time to identify who that appropriate person is from your municipality or your agency. Consultant engineers providing engineering services as a local agency engineer, they are not eligible to serve as the responsible charge. It has to be a full-time employee. However, we understand not all municipalities have full-time employees. So if this is a concern, please reach out to New Jersey DOT Local Aid. Go ahead and set up your one-on-one meeting. We may be able to work with you to figure out a workaround around that because it is something that has come up in the past. Another thing, a tips and strategy, show that you're serious about safety. If one of your concerns is speeding, make sure your proposed design solutions are proven to reduce speeds. This is not just about adding sidewalk or a simple bike lane. There are lots of great designs for improving safety for people walking and bicycling, so please use them. Refer to New Jersey DOT's Complete Streets Manual, or even more importantly, Federal Highway Administration's Proven Safety Countermeasures for resources to provide additional safety considerations when developing your application. Also important, assess your ability to administer a federal aid project and prepare accordingly. So after listening to today's presentation, you might feel like this grant is a bit daunting. This grant is a bit daunting. If you don't have the capacity in place, you'll have those one-on-one meetings to talk, bring that concern to those meetings. Let's talk through what those concerns are to assess your ability to do this kind of grant. And also just so know your ins and outs of spending federal funds before making this commitment. Okay, some more tips and strategies. Be thorough. The ratings are based on the application content. So you may think people know your town, and it's likely that a lot of people do, but don't assume that the raters really know, the grant application reviewers and those who are rating your project absolutely know the projects. Your application has to stand on its own. So don't leave out details that are important to the project because you think everybody knows them. Another thing, clear project limits. So on the map you provide and in the description, DOT goes out and field checks each and every location that is being proposed. They need to know where to go. So you really need to be specific. It's, from this corner to this corner, this whole corridor, this part of the land, anything that helps people go out and do the field check is helpful. Also, make sure you indicate construction readiness. If you have permits already in place, indicate that. If you are planning to get permits and still need some utility relocations, mention that in your application. This is a big one. And as you may have gotten from what we've been describing, these grants are a lot. And so you want to fund a lot. So we recommend that your request should be between $350K and 1.5 million. So this is, again, for bigger projects. This isn't something to do a small project in your town. This is going to be something that you want to do that's, and also a complete facility. And include all costs in the project, including construction inspection if that applies. Indicate any additional funding sources that you may have used or plan to use. Ensure costs are current and comprehensive. And use our cost estimate guide, which can be found on our websites. Try and do your best to develop estimates as accurately and comprehensively as practical. As I mentioned, this is the map maker tool, so I highly recommend you use this unless you have your own way to make maps. But this is another way to make it easier. They should indicate project location within a larger area, the project limits of the new construction, any attractions in the place that people will likely walk and bike to for food, entertainment, historic landmarks, transit, etc. And lastly, maps don't have to be computer generated. You can highlight on a paper. You can also take screenshots of Google, but I love this tool, so go ahead and use it. One of the best things you can do is include good pictures of your proposed project. In the application, you can include up to 10 photos, but I've seen applications where multiple photos are part of like one PDF and where you provide a description and kind of a photo walkthrough. In other words, use your photos to tell your project story. When taking photos, make sure they adequately show the issues. If you have a safety concern, try and capture those concerns in your photos. If your concern is seniors crossing the street on a Saturday morning, take the pictures then. A photo of an empty street that doesn't fully capture the safety issues is not really that helpful to reviewers. Also, don't include photos that are too close up or provide no context. Use people or feet or other ways to put scale into your pictures. And remember that not all the applicants reviewing will be part of the fieldwork review, so give them the context they need to properly assess your project. A few don'ts to add to your list, and these are past mistakes other applicants have made, so don't make these mistakes. Don't submit for a completed or partially completed project. This is for new construction. Don't propose a project on a county road without consulting the county. Don't propose something that goes against current design standards. And make sure your project complies with current ADA or American with Disability Act standards. Don't propose a sidewalk without accompanying safe street crossings. It's not just about building along, it's about crossing safety. And don't propose a project in a neighborhood where residents have actively protested against it. Projects that can show a community support do receive higher ratings, so get that community support for your project. And again, think about costs. You want to make sure that this is for bigger types of projects. Okay, we are almost done. I just want to go through some of the other things. This is about TA set aside, but while we have you, let's talk about some of the other funding sources in case you're thinking maybe my project doesn't fit the TA set aside grant. So there are other grants. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of the other offerings through Department of Transportation. So you may or may not know there's state funding available. Those solicitation comes out annually. They can be for things like county aid, municipal aid, bikeways, safe street transit, transit villages, and the like. Applicants receive points based on various criteria, including existing conditions, safety improvements, and access to public services. Other important criteria include the municipality's special designation and whether the municipality has received an allotment within the last 3 years. Extra points are given to towns with adopted complete streets policies or listed in the Department of Community Affairs as a targeted urban municipality. Something to note, the Transportation Trust Fund was recently renewed and it includes an increase in investment and funds. It now provides almost $1.76 billion annually in state aid to municipalities and counties for local transportation improvements. So what does this mean? Although legislatively, programs like Transit Village and Safe Streets to Transit and Bikeways are set at $1 million in grant funding, additional funds may be available. So you should consider applying for this type of funding. You can see in the slide here, we have the funding in the top is what is annually allocated, and the funding in the bottom is what was actually given in those fiscal years. So please keep that in mind. Okay, the bipartisan infrastructure law. So we're still under that federal transportation bill. It was a $1.2 trillion initiative nationally, and it reauthorized programs for surface transportation, water, and wastewater with an extra $550 billion for new initiatives, half of which goes to the U.S. Department of Transportation over these past 4 years now, almost 5. So the IIJA or BIL funds improvements in transportation, water, energy, resilience, broadband, and community reconnection, focusing on equity, sustainability, resilience, climate change, and safety. It supports biking, walking, better transit, complete streets, and local control, shifting transportation planning to prioritize people over cars. There are several direct federal grants. These do not go through the New Jersey Department of Transportation. You apply directly to the USDOT. So in that case, that the 20% required federal match is required for these types of grants. If you want to find out more about the USDOT discretionary grants, there is a dashboard at transportation.gov. And also New Jersey, through the governor's office, has a New Jersey Infrastructure Investments Tracker, which lists the approved discretionary awards, provides an overview and summary of New Jersey projects, and provides some stories about each grant highlights and how projects have a positive impact on their communities. So there's 2 different websites you can go to see more about those types of grants. I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but the New Jersey Transportation Infrastructure Bank is an independent state financing authority responsible for providing and administering low interest rate loans to qualified municipalities, county, and regional authorities for the purpose of financing transportation quality infrastructure projects. Currently, the construction loan rate is 2.2%. To make an appointment, you have to go directly to the infrastructure bank staff, which is njib.gov/njtib. So a good funding application starts with a good plan. And the DOT and the MPOs offer technical assistance to create plans that improve active transportation options and conditions. So first off, New Jersey DOT offers the Bicycle and Pedestrian Planning Assistance Program. The program provides no-cost technical assistance to counties and municipalities through the service of on-call consultants retained by New Jersey DOT and prioritizes applicants from underserved communities. So to download the application and requirements on the Bicycle Pedestrian Planning Assistance Program, and you can also see other past reports funded through this program, visit the New Jersey Bicycle and Pedestrian Resource Center page on this program, which is on at njbikeped.org. Also, our three MPOs also offer free technical assistance programs that focus on municipalities and the advancement of complete streets approaches. So you will need to go to your regional Metropolitan Planning Organization website for more information about technical assistance rounds and how to apply. However, I'm going to do a quick spotlight on South Jersey Transportation Planning Organization. They have an upcoming free in-person workshop about implementing complete streets at the local level on Monday, December 9th in Vineland. You're welcome to register. Registration is open. It's available through the Sustainable Jersey website, the New Jersey Bicycle and Pedestrian Resource Center website, and through South Jersey Transportation Planning Organization's website. So there's QR code, scan that if you're interested in that. And if you are in one of the 4 counties in the South Jersey, this is a new program. So stay tuned for more information about applying for the Complete Streets technical assistance. If you're interested in learning more about what types of designs should be looking to implement with your transportation alternatives grant, there are many resources that can help guide municipalities on policy and design to address walking and bicycling and transit, including several guides that are specific to New Jersey. For example, Department of Transportation Complete Streets Design Guide, the Complete and Green Streets Model Policy and Guide, the School Zone Design Guide, the School Bike Parking Guide, which is good for bike parking information for municipalities, as well as the Planning for Greenways Guidebook. These are just a few resources. Your county and MPO may have many more. So one of the things to do is to show your commitment to safety. This is more than some new road striping and a handful of signs going into a road. Consider designs that will make a real impact on the safety of people walking and bicycling and taking transit. The key is all environmental and engineering plans and specifications shall conform to engineering standards and must be prepared by a professional engineer licensed to participate in New Jersey. Another great resource, if you haven't already seen it, is FHWA's Proven Safety Countermeasure, emphasis on the proven. This is a website that provides many strategies that practitioners can implement to successfully address crashes and achieve safety goals. So one approach whose aim is to eliminate fatal and serious injury for all road users and is a method for realizing zero death initiatives is called the safe system approach. Using things like the proven safety countermeasures can help you achieve and address the safe system approach. One thing to note, during work zone detour development, it's helpful to refer to also FHWA's work zone best practice safety guide and NJDOT's work zone safety setup guide when developing construction detours. There is a lot more resources. I'm going to give you a few more places to look for these resources. So if we go ahead, go to the next slide. We've mentioned multiple times the New Jersey DOT Local Aid Resource Center. There's a lot more resources there. I just highlighted a few key ones. This is another really great place to start. Not only mentions what's going on with TA set aside, but you'll see all the other federal and state aid programs on this website. And they also have a help desk. So reach out to them as well. You can still find all of this on New Jersey DOT's local aid website as well. So once all of this comes out, you'll see the announcements come out. They'll be on DOT's website, they'll be on local aid, they'll be on social media, they'll be in newsletters. We will get the announcement out, but you're here today to know that December 10th, the application goes live on Sage and you can access it then and start early. New Jersey Division of Local Aid and Economic Development, just so if you're don't only realize, is divided into 4 districts plus staff at New Jersey DOT's headquarters. When you do get these grants, your local district representative will be managing grants selected. And so at that time, if you don't already know your district representative, you'll be working with them on your grant implementation. And because 59% of TA set-aside funding is sub-allocated to the 3 MPOs, they can also help your community address regional transportation needs. So make sure you also check out your local Metropolitan Planning Organization website for plans and other resources to help you with your application. And I'm not done with resources and free help. If you don't already know and have met your local New Jersey Transportation Management Association, we have 8 in New Jersey that cover the state. And staff within these associations are available to help with several walking and biking initiatives, including things like safe routes to school programs, school travel plans, addressing safety for walking and bicycling, and assistance on adopting complete and green streets policies. So if you're not already matched up with your TMA, this is another great resource to get in touch with today. John Dugan and I are with the New Jersey Safe Routes Resource Center, which is supported and funded by New Jersey DOT and housed at Rutgers. And we're here to help public officials, professionals, and the general public in creating a safer, more accessible walking and bicycling environment for your community. So you can reach out to us as well. We also have a help desk and helpline. Happy to answer questions as they come up. I had mentioned if you find to identify your person of responsible charge early. If you do, once you have that person in mind, if they haven't already attended a training, these trainings are free. So our sister organization at Rutgers, the Center for Advanced Infrastructure and Transportation, has a bunch of free trainings. I highly recommend you go to their website to see the person of responsible charge training and many other type of trainings out there, which are for engineers, public works, and others. So keep that in mind. Plus federal highway. These are federal highway grants. There is a multitude of resources on their federal aid essentials for local public agency websites. They also do a nice thing where they also put a lot of little helpful videos and how-tos on their website to help you with your applications as well. Whew, we did it. And I've seen a lot more questions come in. So let's dive into some of these questions. And John, do you want to take point on going through some of them? Or Julie?
Sure. I noticed that there's a couple of questions that were, one of them was the question regarding the dollar values, the figures that were, the limits, the ceiling, the floor and ceiling. So it would be 350,000 to 1.5 million would be the application cost that we're looking to ideally, fund.
There's
project.
still a question, Julie,
Yeah.
about guidance on how much or little of concept design needs to
Yeah,
be.
yep, I saw that. So just
Okay.
got to that in a second. So it may cost a little bit more than 1.5, but it will be reviewed and may be provided at the discretion of the selection committee. So I would recommend you try to, work within those limits. Okay, and think about if you have a really large project that's 3-4 million, think about segmenting it. As we've talked about in the past. So I do recommend, if you have a large project like that, a very long project, where you're concerned about what to actually put in for an application, when you go to your one-on-one meeting, that is the time to have a conversation about that, because we'll have a representative from your respective MPO and, somebody from our respective district office. As we had said, we're located throughout the state. So they're really going to provide help with you in getting your grant together and, provide, additional information, or provide some guidance of what to do. So, and as Leanne had mentioned before, they'll ask you to put some things together, a cost estimate, get your supporting materials together and bring them and have that conversation, because that'll help in, getting your application together. Okay. And then there's a guidance about how much concept or whatever. If you have something available, by all means share it, because the more you share, in your application, the better. So, if you have a concept, you have identified, pathway, and you moved your preferred alternative that you want to move forward with, by all means, recommend that, put that in there if you have supporting studies, or if you did a concept study, it's completed, attach the relevant pages to that, as we have mentioned, because that's again, an additional support, in putting your application together, because folks are not necessarily gonna know, some of the reviewers are not gonna know, um, what you had and what you were thinking about. So absolutely provide anything in support that might, help your application. That's studies, plans, pictures we talked about, estimates, anything you think. If you have a 5-year, plan that has been developed as part of the county, in your respective county, attach the relevant pages. If you have a municipality and you have a planning document that's completed that talks about the particular project you're applying for, attach those pages. If you are putting a streetscape in, for instance, and you have a certain design, criteria that you want to follow, you have certain bench materials, or, certain fixtures you'd like to have an effect or something like that, attach that information. Because again, it's all in support of the application. Just makes it easier for everyone. Okay, and then I saw the discussion about solicitation, dates. And, what's the resolution? So ideally, we want something that's within 1 year of the solicitation date. So the solicitation date is December 10th, 2024. So ideally, your solicitation should, your resolution should have been um enacted and acted upon. In other words, a resolution went before council, signed off, and we had that conversation. It was through in front of a public forum, in other words. That should have been December 11th to 2023 onward. So I hope that
So
clarifies.
basically,
Yes,
if you happen to pass, if your town, say you're any town, New Jersey, you did a resolution for the 2023 grant round of TA set aside, you cannot use that one again. You have to
correct.
do it, you have to update it. I know it's a little weirdly stated, but basically what that means is, we're giving you a long leeway here. You've got, if you happen
A lot of time.
if you happen to get a resolution passed in this December 2024, yes, it counts as long as it's not, you know, more than a year old, by the time you submit it in May. So, if you pass that resolution early, great, you can use it, but just don't reuse one that's,
Yeah.
from years ago. That's sort of the
That's a
con
major
with that one.
disqualifier too, because we're gonna look at the dates, and we look at the dates. We looked if it was acted upon. So acted upon, we see, council members that checked off their, approval or disapproval, the clerk's signature, things like that. We look at all that stuff. So it's really important to think about that. So yeah, plenty of time, have a leg up to actually get your application started. It's good that you all attended today. So think in terms of just thinking about, it takes time. We recognize that. That's why it's just as good we're getting out early. The copies, again, as we had mentioned, of these webinars will be posted. So if you have a colleague or, someone else that you think, in your organization that may benefit from viewing this today,
Go ahead and change the next slide, John, so people can
by
see.
all means, go ahead and, you know, show them, because it'll be recorded and taped and put on that. Yep. And then also, a copy of the slide deck that we have gone through will also be available as well. So if you want to go to a particular slide and hone in on a particular, part of the webinar, that will be available for your viewing as well. So I
Yeah.
hope that helps.
Yep.
And again, just to drive home, additional, copies or updated copies of the handbook, and also our screenshots, Sage screenshots of the actual application will be posted as we get closer to the December 10th date, and that'll be available on the DOT Local Aid Resource Center website, as well as our regular DOT Local Aid website. I'm sorry, that the DOT Local Aid website, the DOT website as well. And also Safe Routes to School NJ. So all of the information will be there. We'll also be updating our supporting document that provides sample costs for in putting your cost estimate together. So if you don't know that, that will be available as well. So there's a lot of information. It's a lot to take in. I recognize it. I do see one of the TMAs did provide a link to their particular TMA in the chat.
Oh, that's the that's a TMA council, so that lists all
Correct.
the TMAs. Yeah.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, good. So, and they're able to help you. They'll provide some guidance on putting your bike way, your bike plan together if you don't have one. And you need a couple of months to actually put a bike plan together. Let's say you're putting a bike application or you're gonna put a walking, a sidewalk section or whatever. They can help you. There are additional resources that you can talk to in addition to the MPO that can help you in putting the application together.
The clear line in the sand is that the TMAs are not your grant writers,
No.
but they can
Yep.
be an assistive to you to identify where your best strategies are.
Yes. Yep.
And John Kasha, did you want to say a few words?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on that question about the conceptual design or conceptual plans. What I'll say is the more you can do ahead of time, it's going to show readiness, which is one of those categories, but also if you can come to those one-on-one mandatory pre-application meetings with a conceptual design or a design and a fairly detailed cost estimate, it makes those one-on-one meetings much more valuable. We can local aid and the MPOs can help guide and, hey, maybe you should move this, you should avoid this, or this element's not eligible, or you didn't consider this. So having that work done ahead of time, now that you have, it's not going to open till December, you may have a month or two. If there's something you can put together, you're going to get much more value out of those one-on-one meetings.
Agreed.
And show the review committee that you're committed and you are ready to hit the ground running, so to speak, if you're awarded the grant. So
yeah,
that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's a good point.
Yep.
Anybody else who's a speaker would like to say any other words of wisdom or tips or strategies?
Well, thank you, everyone. Really, really appreciate the opportunity. Yes, safety issues. Yes, the TMAs can assist with addressing safety issues in your application, including the countermeasures, as Leanna mentioned. Correct. Yep, and especially they have FHWA. The safety countermeasures do have a pedestrian component to them, as well as like lighting and things like that. So they'll all provide that additional piece that you can put in your application, because there are concerns with those aspects of projects and safety as well. So and do highlight the safety in your grant. We do care about that. So okay, anything else? Well, if you don't have anything else and you're off the presentation, I have an additional question, please do reach out to us. We are available to help you.
Yep. Excellent way to end.
Thank you so much. Yep. I look forward to, good luck, put your application together and, look forward to hearing about one-on-ones. So thank you very much. Have a great day and happy holidays. And, hopefully in December 10th, we'll be, getting going with the solicitation. So, and look again, also the last piece is SAGE will open, so you'll be able to start putting your application in then as well. So okay, thank you again very much, and thank you, Leanne.
Thank you, Julie. Thanks everybody for coming. We appreciate your time and good luck.
John and John. Yep, thank you.
All right, bye everybody.